everybody, and welcome back to G-Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. And I'm out here at my van. I told you there was going to be a follow-up video on this 200 amp hour battery with the 200 amp BMS from WattCycle. And this is going to be it. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go through how to hook up the battery monitor and shunt and help you out with some of that information. But I have right now in my van, I have a LiPo4 MPPT charge controller here, and this is connected to my other WattCycle battery. This is the 100 amp hour, the 12 volt. This is the group 24 size. Okay, so you can see how much smaller that is compared to this 12 volt 200 amp hour. But size aside, I promised you I was going to show you how to hook this up, and I'm going to do that. Why is my inverter running right now? Well, it runs all day because I have what I'm leaning on here behind me is a refrigerator. I have a mini fridge in here, and this is something I just added to the back of here because I'm going to be doing some gold prospecting and overnighters, and I'm going to have a fridge with me. The fridge is going to end up right there in that corner where all that stuff is. That's all my gold prospecting stuff, and I'm going to put the fridge right in that corner. But I'm also going to have to wire AC power around through the van and put some electrical outlets in, and that'll be another project. But let's get back to this 200 amp hour battery. So what am I going to do? I'm going to hook this up to the system, and I'm going to take the 100 amp hour battery out of the system. And why am I going to do that? Well, simply because when I first started out here off grid, I had to build everything that was out here, and there's no electricity out here. This is completely off grid. There's not even a telephone pole for miles from here. So, well, at least a mile and a quarter from here. So if I wanted to have electricity brought in on the grid, I have to pay for the poles and the wiring and all that stuff. And then I'll tell you what, I could buy a great big solar system for what it cost me just for those poles to come in here. So I went with off-grid solar, and that's what I have in my cabin. But when I first got out here, there was no power out here, and I could have hauled a generator out. Then I'd have to keep running out and getting more gasoline to fill it up and stuff like that. So I worked off of solar out of the back of this van. You see some of my tools back there. This van used to be completely stocked with tools because it was my work van. I'm retired now. So I had to build my cabin. I had to build a pedestal for my water tank. I had to build a stairway going up to the top of the water tank. I had to build my chicken coop. I had to build my garden house. I needed electricity to run my power tools. Otherwise, I'd be doing it all with hand tools, and I'd probably still be doing it. Now, this is going like 10 years, 9 years later. I'd still be working on some of that stuff. So the power tools running out of the back of the van, I originally had this same inverter that you're seeing right here, same exact inverter, and I had a regular yellow top sealed lead acid battery here, and it was not even a size 24, a group 24 size. It was smaller than that, and it didn't have a lot of power, but I have solar panels on the roof of the van, and at the time I had 45 watts of Harbor Freight solar panels up there. That's it, 45 watts and a single 12 volt battery down here. And I ran all my power tools. I ran my table saw, I ran my skill saw, I ran my jackhammer, I ran my rotary hammer, Everything that I had to run, I ran off of that, out of the back of this van. And it was pretty funny back in then, because I had a guy pull up while I was doing the work, and he says, I heard the power tools running, but I didn't hear a generator running. I says, I don't need a generator, I'm running on solar. And he looked, and all he could see was desert. He says, where? I said, right up there on the roof of the van and inside. I showed him my little system. He says, wow, that's amazing. So I think some of you will find this very interesting and beneficial if you're planning on moving off grid. Now, I'm going to hook up a 200 amp hour battery instead of that little lead acid that I used to have. And I'm going to be using 200 watts of solar in series on the roof of the van. And remember, in series, the power coming out of there increases, just like in a battery bank where you hook the batteries in bank, your voltage goes up, but your amps stay the same. So that allows me to use thinner wire, and that's this one little wire right up here coming down from the roof of the van. That's all I have. It's a 12 gauge wire from an old extension cord, and that's what's bringing my power in. So let's get to this, okay? I want to show you how simple it is to hook up the shunt onto this system. Now I'll be doing the running of the power tools and that stuff at a different time. I'm not going to make it a super long video here. I just want to get to the point of hooking up the shunt and showing you how it connects to your system and how to work from there, okay? So here we go. First thing we're going to do is, I'm going to show you, I got the parts here. I got the little monitor here. I got the shunt itself right here. And I already connected this little wire. And while I'm talking about this little wire, this goes to the positive of the battery. And it's the positive power that powers the little tiny computer chip that's inside of this unit that does all of the calculations for how much amps and watts and volts and all of that stuff that you're getting through your battery. All right, how much is coming in, how much is going out, all that stuff. I'll show you that on the screen when we hook it up. All right, but what I would like to see, and this is for WattCycle, is I'm lucky enough to have a tiny screwdriver like this, because I do a lot of little electronics and experimenting on electricity and things like that. Now, if you didn't have one of these, there's no way in the world that you're going to use a regular size screwdriver to get in there for that little tiny screw in there. You can see how small it is compared to my fingernail. And this little screwdriver here just barely fits in there. And not everybody's going to have one of these. So what I'd like to see from WattCycle is to either put a spring clip connection on here, or supply a tiny little screwdriver. It only has to be 3/4 of an inch or an inch long, with a little plastic handle on it that you can use to put that wire in there. Otherwise, they're going to be a little frustrated trying to figure out how to get that hooked up. All right, so that goes out to WattCycle, and let's get to this. Okay, so first, very simply, we're going to start on the negative side of the battery. Now, I have a little cable that I made up here, a short cable, and we're going to connect that to the negative pole of the battery. Now, a couple of the tools you'll need while you're doing this will be a 13mm wrench and a 17mm wrench. Because you don't really need to have wrenches. You can use sockets or whatever. You can even use a small pair of channel locks if you wanted. You just want to make sure your connections are tight, because loose connections cause heat, and that heat causes problems. Okay, so I'm going to bend this around to make sure that it's where I need it. And we're going to tighten this terminal. Okay, now you don't want to tighten this enough so that you snap it off. you just want to make sure that it's definitely snapped and tightened in there pretty good. All right, now on the shunt, you have two poles here. One is marked B minus and the other one is P minus. Okay, the B minus is battery negative. So that's what we're at, the battery negative here. So we're going to take the nut off and put your finger behind it, because the brass bolt is not fastened to the plastic. It just fits into a hexagonal detention back there that holds it from turning when you're trying to tighten it. You got a lock washer and a flat washer. Okay, now we're going to put this on here and put the lock washer and flat washer. Flat washer first, and then the lock washer, and then the nut again. Okay, we've got it snugged up. Now we use the 17mm wrench. Oh. And we're going to tighten that one down pretty snug. Okay, because that's carrying quite a bit of amps there, so you want to make sure that one's pretty snug. All right, so we got that done. So next, we need a negative battery cable that'll run from the other side of the shunt where it says P minus. That's going to be the power. Come on. All right, so we're going to connect this cable here. Put the flat washer first, lock washer second, and then the nut. And we're going to snug that one down. Okay, now if you notice, I've already got the little power wire for the positive already connected down here, because you got to put it up from underneath, and it's a lot easier to put that in before you put your battery cables on. So remember that when you're doing it, put this power cable in place first. Now that's going to end up going over to the positive pole of the battery. But before we do that, we're going to turn the video here, and I'm going to power down my inverter, and I'm going to unplug the refrigerator from it. And then what we're going to do is take off the power cables that are going up to the inverter from the original battery. But before I do that, I'm going to need the two power cables that go to the charge controller, because those are what you hook up first with a charge controller. You want to be able to tell the charge controller what voltages you're going to be working with, because like this one, this MPPT charge controller, it will handle multiple voltages from 12 to 48 volts. And I'm going to be working with 12 volts, so I want it to know that I'm doing that. Okay. So am I going to have enough distance here? You see, actually, this one has to go onto the negative battery terminal over here. So I'm going to have to move this battery into position. And we're going to take this one off again and put this negative terminal in place. Okay, now we're going to move this over just a hair, as this cable on the other side is going to end up going up to the inverter. I've got to get up here a little bit, and I've got those nice and snug. That's why I have my channel locks here to take the nuts off. All right, I hope I'm not getting too much in the way here. Let me move the camera over, show you what I'm doing. I'm taking the positive unit off, and I do have enough room there. That's good. So I have my positive cable, and I think this is the right one. Oh, that's not going to fit. That's okay. I can fix that. So I'll get this connected, and then I'll show you how I'm going to fix that. I just need to actually drill the ring connector, the ring lug, out with a 3/8 drill, but I'm not going to do that and take up your time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the positive cable back in place temporarily, and yeah, I'm going to get this one snugged up. And the reason I make sure I snug each one up before I move on to the next step is because you want to make sure that you don't forget to snug anything down. Okay, so I need my positive here. I'm going to put this cable on. And tighten it down. And then we'll take this cable off. And I hope that this one will fit. It looks like I made it fit. Yep. I remembered to drill that one. I got a nosy dog behind me. Okay, so for a temporary fix on the positive cable, I just happen to have a 5/16 nut here, And I'm going to put a nut and bolt from one to the other, and this might spark. Nope. Okay. Sometimes you'll get a spark connecting LiFePro4 batteries, and I usually have a resistor unit handy to absorb that shock. All right. So now we're looking at the charge controller, and it's showing 14 volts on a charge because I've still got solar coming in. You see the sun is still charging, and the charge is going through the controller to the battery. So we're going to start off with a fully charged battery here, which is a good thing. All right, let's get this back in place. So the next thing we want to do is you have a shielded cable that comes with your shunt monitor. Now the two connectors on this are exactly the same, so you don't have to worry about which end goes where. All right, so we're going to take this first one and we're going to plug it in. Now there's two little nubs on one side of this, and the other side has just got wires. So if you look inside the receptacle, you'll see two slots at the bottom, so that's where the nubs go in. And we push that in and click it just like that. Oops, I forgot to put the positive cable in. Isn't that something? Boy, I'm just messing up all over the place here, but we'll get it done. I didn't expect it to be this difficult working in this cramped little spot. So let's get this one loosened again and get this. Yeah, I could put it there, but let's put it down here where it's closer to the battery, because I'm going to be taking that bolt out of there and modifying that wire after I'm done doing the video. And I know some of you are saying, well, why modify the wire if it's only going to be a temporary connection? Well, it's because I want to be fair on the demonstration and the challenge of the battery, and I want to keep my cables as close to being the same length as possible and the same size. So this cable is a little bit larger than this cable, but for right now, that's good enough. All right. So now I've got power going to it, and I take the other side of my shielded cable, and we're going to take our little monitor here, and on the back, same thing. You see this got two little slots on the bottom, so we're going to look for those two little ribs on this, and that goes in that way. Bingo! And look at that. We're flashing. All right. Why is it flashing? Well, it has to be set up now. So we're going to go directly into setup here. So the first thing we're going to do is press on the OK once, and then press on it and hold it for 2 seconds. And you see everything comes up here. Now it's going to be 200 amp hour battery. That's what we have. Full charge is 14.3. Okay, that's on the parameters of this manual. You can get all that information in there. Now, I've got it zeroed at 10 volts and power off at 0 volts. Okay, so when you hit the down arrow here, it's going to move to the next one for setting. And then you can move to the next one for setting, and the next one for setting, and the next one for setting. Okay, so the alarm is going to go off on this thing at 20 amp hours. When it gets down to 20 amp hours left, an alarm will sound and let me know that it's getting pretty low. Okay, so we'll go down the next one, and 0.22%, 0.220% gives me an attention, and we're okay there. So now I'm going to hit OK, and it puts me into changing the parameters on there. When I'm done, I hit the top double arrow, and it goes out to flashing, and hit that again, and it'll bring me back to the main menu or the main screen. Now, it is saying that I've only got 3.6 amp hours and 1% charge, but that will fix itself in a little while. It takes a little while to be sitting there before it comes back, and it'll say 100% on there when it comes back. All right. Now, this top double arrow will bring the lighted screen on at any time. If you press and hold that one for a couple of seconds, you can shut off the screen light altogether. It says off there. Then you press it again and hold it for 2 seconds. Press it one more time, and you can turn the screen back on. Now, the screen stays on for a little while and then shuts off. And that's all there is to it, everybody. So now I can actually turn my inverter back on, and I can plug my refrigerator back in, and that's it. We're all up and running. Now you can see over here on the screen, my refrigerator is pulling 119 watts, 118 to 119. Okay, now at the current 1% left, that's only going to give me 34 minutes of running. But I know I've got more than that in here, because it's a fully charged battery. So we'll get the settings on this thing done. That's about all I have for this one. I'm going to cut this off, and I'll come back when I'm ready to start running power tools, which would probably be tomorrow or the next day. We'll let this thing settle in for here and get used to charging off of solar. This is G-Bear signing off. Okay, everybody, a little addendum here. As you can see, I've got it at 100% now, showing 200 amp hours in the battery, and saying 26 minutes left. That's because I haven't set that yet, but I want to show you what had happened here. Was I had this thing hooked up before to this battery when I did the initial test on it, and I took this battery all the way down to 0%, and or actually down to 1%. So that's where it was hanging. It was at 1%, and it wouldn't let me out of there. So how do I fix that? Okay, so I got the instructions out. Go figure, they got instructions, and it says, and I quote here, capacity homing. The battery capacity is cleared or full capacity setting when you do capacity homing. So how do you do that? You press the down arrow and hold it for 2 seconds, and that's going to, let's see, that's if your battery is completely discharged or empty. So that's going to set it and clear it to 0%. But I wanted to set it back at 100%. So I got my WattCycle charger out, and you see the green light. Let me get this out of here. See, the green light is on. I just finished charging it up, and it had charged to 14.3, and then shut off. So now it says 100%. So in order to set it at 100%, it says press and hold the up arrow. So that's this one. We're going to turn on the monitor and press and hold it. And that sets it to 100%. So I've already done that. That's why it says 100%. And that's where we're at. Okay, so now I've got it reset. So now I can turn off the light or turn on the light. I can adjust the light for whatever size, whatever I want, whatever brightness I want. I'm going to press and hold the OK button. And we're going to put this in at 14.3 for a charge, for a full charge. Power off at 0 volts. We're going to go down here to the alarm at 20 amp hours. Everything else can remain the same. Those are all settings I put in before. Then we're going to clear back to the main screen by pressing that button. All right. So we're all set up here and ready to go. And power this on. You see the time is coming up here because I've activated it because I've got a load going on it now. That's my refrigerator here with a little freezer. So we're down to 199 amp hours. We're down to 13.8 volts. We're drawing 8.11 amps, 111 watts. So we're up and running. That's cool. Now, on the 100 amp hour battery, overnight, it will get down pretty darn low, almost to 10% or 15% drawing for running this little refrigerator here. And we'll show you what's inside here. Just water. So everything is nice ice cold here. And it's going to be running that all night long, and we'll see where that comes to in the morning. So this is G-Bear signing off.